lenses, glasses, or that. Okay, so this is basically a clear definition between vision impairment and low vision. So some of the common conditions, this is not the entire list that I've given you, but these are some of the common conditions that we have encountered with our clients and patients. And you have noticed that one of the topmost condition that has been reflected is uncorrected refractive errors. For the past few years, this was not included in a low vision list. But with the recent addition in the ICD-10 or ICD-11, they have included uncorrected refractive errors. So what does refractive error means? For instance, distance vision. You have difficulty seeing near things. We call it as myopia. Other things is distance vision is hyperopia, presbyopia. So all these things are called as refractive errors, which means that it can be corrected by glasses. So that's why they are looking into uncorrected refractive errors. There was a study done by WHO to identify whether this uncorrected refractive errors will cause a functional deficit in the clients or functional deficit in people with conditions. So they have identified that this is a leading cause for vision impairment and blindness. So that's the reason why this is in the higher priority. Other things are cataract, age-related macular degeneration, glaucoma, diabetic retinopathy, corneal opacity, albinism, maculopathy, retinitis pigmentosa. So these are some of the common medical conditions. I'm not going to go into detail about all these conditions because that itself will take another 1.5 hours of session. So I'm just going to directly jump into the assessment of how do you do an assessment to identify the needs of the clients or the patients that we are serving, especially in the area of assistive technology. So there is a process of doing an assessment, and there are tools that can be used for you to evaluate or understand the needs of the clients. First and foremost is your eye report. If any person who goes to a clinic or to a hospital for your eye checkup, they will give you an eye report. Usually, the eye report will have the following conditions, the following statements. One is a visual acuity. Example, I just gave an example like 6/20. So what does visual acuity is? Basically, they will give you these numbers and figures. And this numbers and figures means that this is the number, this is the magnification, or this is the font size that the client is able to see for the near vision or the distance vision. For instance, the denominator 120 means the font size that the client is able to see is 120. Okay. Any questions, you just raise up your hand and ask me. It's okay. Then is about visual field. This is another statement that you can see in your medical memo, apart from the common medical conditions that they have stated. After these two information, what you have also to know is basically the status of the medical condition. What does the status means is basically whether it is a stable medical condition. That means together with the age, the medical condition doesn't change. It doesn't affect in any ways. It is stable. And then there is something called as a deteriorating medical condition, which means that it continues to deteriorate, right? And then you also have to note whether there is any comorbid conditions. Usually, low vision is, as I shared in the previous slide, there are a list of medical conditions that is directly related to low vision. But there are other comorbid medical conditions that may affect our vision. Suddenly, immediately, if you ask us, we may not be able to remember. But when we ponder about it, then you might understand that, like CBA, CBA. Sorry, I forgot. It's a stroke where you will have homonymous hemianopia. And other medical conditions that affect your vision is also diabetes. Even a medical like diabetes will affect that eyesight. And you also can think about whether the clients have any other comorbid conditions like ASD, ADHD. The next thing that you would go about is observation. So it is in a chronological way of doing the assessment. The second item is observation. Observation is critical for you to understand two things. One is client's performance in this natural setting. The natural setting, the context we are giving is basically school, home, and community, right? Community could be like workplace, place of worship, place of eating. All these things are community. Although school and home is part of our community, but these are the major chunk where the problem or the performance is affected because of the vision impairment. So we are breaking down into 3 items here. And then we will be observing the accessibility of the environment. So for instance, for assessment of the client's performance, you can use variety of tools. There is no limitation for you. For instance, you can do an informal observation. You can use school AMS if you're doing it in the school. You can use AMS. You can do routine-based observation, job site observation, and things like that on the performance of the client in performing a task. Then you will assess on the accessibility, like home environment. Where is this located? Where is this seated? How do you get the lighting around the scenarios? How do you work around your laptop when there is poor lighting? Things like that. And also about reachable conditions, whether you're able to reach, whether it is available nearby, how much contrast and things like that. So those are the major things that you will be doing an observation. The next one is about functional vision assessment. When we check with our clients about their vision assessment, they usually say, oh, functional vision assessment was already done in a clinic. And when I went to the hospital, I asked them about the functional vision assessment. They have done it. Why do you still need to do it? Why do you want me to do this and that? So basically, to define what is the functional vision assessment that is done in the clinic versus what we do is what is given here. The main critical thing is basically for the FA that is done in the clinic is used using a single variable and a control condition. Like the clinic is set up thinking about the clients with vision impairment. So the lighting, the positioning, the placement of the chair, the table, all these things are under control condition. They exactly know how it is going to look like and they have prepared it. So that is the critical thing that is there when they do a functional vision assessment at the clinic site. What it actually matters when we do it in the natural setting, that you will see there are multiple variables. So it is just not he himself or she himself. It could be the peers, it could be the day, it could be the light, it could be my caregiver, all these things. And it can be under a complex scenario. When we go to our clinic, they will ask you to read a newspaper or they will ask you to do certain things. But it is not the actual thing that what we do at home. We do a lot more complex tasks. So it is under complexity and real life conditions. So this is a critical thing that we are differentiating between the functional vision assessment that is done in the clinics versus the real life scenarios. After which is what we will be doing on. So you gather information. This is basically, we group them as gathering information. After we gather information, we will be going into a next item called as learning media assessment. Why is it critical to understand a learning media? Okay, for me to define you what is learning media is basically, we know how we learn. Some of us are visual learners, some of us are auditory learners, some of us are kinesthetic learners. We came to know our learning style based on how we eventually do every task or how we eventually learn new skills. But for clients, that's basically is called as learning media. So for clients with vision impairment and low vision, we need to do an assessment on learning media. Actually, it is done by teachers who are visually impaired. So they call it as TVI. It is a very critical curriculum model of kind of a thing to understand what exactly the learning media that they use, right? So for other preschoolers, it is challenging. They have not created any specific learning media assessment tool for preschoolers. The reason being because of the developmental milestone, they are still developing. So there is no any set tool for you to evaluate. So it is basically based on your observations. For mainstream school students, there is a tool, we can use this one. So, so this is one of the tool which is taken from Texas School for the Blind. So it is basically meant for school-going population. So in this, there are different forms for you to run through from one item to another item. So the first one that we will be assessing is on the use of sensory channels. It is a very simple tool, but very effective tool. Over here, we will be doing 3 or more observations for 15 to 20 minutes. And we will be jotting down observations, 15 discrete behaviors. The behaviors could be visual behaviors or overall behaviors. And then you will put an X mark into the column that is stated about the sensory channel. And that kind of summarizes you what is a priority of the sensory channel that the client might be using. For instance, if you can see here, there is V. V is vision, T is tactile, A is auditory. So for instance, if I ask the child to, maybe example, I would ask my client or my student to count coins, group coins according to its face value. Then if I see they bring the things near to the eyesight, then I will put a tick over here as vision. But if they use the hand to group them by size or by the texture, then I put them as T. And then if they are not able to do, but they come back to you to ask, teacher, can you read for me? Then I will put them under A. So you will observe 3 observations and you will jot down all these discrete behaviors. At the end of the page, you can kind of know exactly what is the main, what is the predominant sensory channel that the client would be looking for in terms of their learning skills. And for adults and geriatrics, it is also usual, can be used across, but it's optional again. But there is the learning media assessment tool. Apart from this one, there are other tools also, but it is usually done by the teachers who are visually impaired. So that's the reason why I'm not recommending here those tools. Sorry. After the assessment is, oh, sorry. So after learning media assessment is where again you will go back to a clinical low vision evaluation. What is clinical low vision evaluation is basically a low vision optometrist would have done an assessment and would have recommended certain things. You basically or usually they will recommend a optical and non-optical devices. Optical devices are grouped as glasses, magnifiers, telescopes, and things like that, which actually contains a glass material, silicon material for you. That is called as optical devices. The non-optical devices are the recommendations that is made by an optometrist. For instance, a font size or use of a white cane or any other devices that is meant for them to use. So those are called as non-optical devices. And then lastly, you will be doing a check on the current AT that they have. The reason why we have to do this, the clinical or the optical and non-optical device together with the AT is basically to find out the reason why the current AT is not being used. For instance, if a magnifier is being recommended by an optometrist or a professional in hospital side, and then it is not being used, then that's where your current AT will also, the assessment on current AT will also matters. Then you go back and check with them why you're not using, what is the reason, things like that. Some of the examples of the AT device is listed here. For aerial tools, example is the embossed labels for medication, right? And then for school accommodation and adaptations, example, a magnifier, use of a magnifier, audio books, high contrast workspace, organized cabinet for drilling tools, knitting tools with a magnifier. So these are some of the examples for the assistive devices or assistive technology. So going back to the major chunk, the real scenario why you are here, you wanted to know about the technology that is available for clients with vision impairment or low vision. I've grouped the AT devices into 4 major categories. One, as school function. I thought I could cover across the age group, so that's the reason why I grouped them according to this way as well. So one is on school function. School function includes preschool, mainstream school, and spec school. Even it includes Institute of Higher Learning, anything in educational pathway, that's school function. Then is home independence, anything to do with your home and things like that. And then community living. Community living, I included return to work, mobility, social interaction as well. If you don't say anything on social interaction part, you can let me know, then I can share with you. And I put that another one called as others, but basically others talks about your recreational leisure activities and things like that. So some of the tools that is mainly for school, again, the school component has been grouped again into the performances. Like for example, there is a performance called as reading, writing, use of geometrical instruments or any instrument for that, for math and science, science combination, anything for art. So something like that, I kind of grouped them and I've just listed few of it. There can be variety of different things, but then according to that, it is basically a generic item called as magnifiers. It can be a handheld or it can be a desktop. It varies, the range varies, but there is a magnifier for you. It can be used in school. Optical character reading, we call it as OCR function. Some magnifiers do have OCR function. Even our apps that we have in our smartphone does have an OCR function. However, the OCR function that we have in our smartphone is not called as OCR. Rather, it is called as a voice over software like Siri, OpenBook, JAWS, Google Assistant, and things like that. Everything, all these things are grouped under voice over software. Then is telescope. The other things is for maths and science is embossed graph paper, embossed geometrical instruments, embossed calipers, math manipulatives. WikiStick is another one. It's a tool. It's a low-cost tool, but that is highly utilized or more functional for children to read and understand all the pictures and diagrams. It can be a stick diagram, it can be a stick picture, graphs, and things like that, WikiSticks. So these are some of the school ATs that we are currently using most of the time. And then in terms of home independence, pause this one. So in terms of your home independence, there are lots. I did not group it in, but I took only the major item. For example, the tipper. Sorry. That tipper, to tip your pot for the tea and things like that. This is again for the most common challenges that the clients will have in home living is this. And then liquid level indicator, definitely, because when we pour a cup of a coffee or a water, they may not know what exactly is the level of the cup and water that you're pouring or the liquid that you're pouring. So it is a liquid level indicator. And one of the good tool that is commonly available, or it is a new version or new innovation done by one of the person in Singapore, is an adapted knife. So I just ran this video for a short while. So the adapted knife has a small layer here that allows people not to cut their fingers, or it prevents them from cutting their own fingers rather than the normal knife. So this is another tool, because when I had to see clients in their home living, the major task performance that affects their independent living is chopping their own vegetables, cooking for their own meal and things like that. And they are worried about the knife. There are other ways that you can do also, just not this adapted knife. There are other tools commonly used across all people, like choppers, processes and things like that, yes, you can go ahead to recommend all these things as well. For community living, I have grouped them again into different angles. So one is voice over function. This is basically for your social comm. You know, how do you how do you communicate with your peers, co-workers, your friends, and things like that. So voice over function, and it is not exclusively for client vision, exclusively for clients with low vision. It has become an accessibility tool for everybody. Even we do send a voice over messages via chat and things like that. So it has become very commonly available as well. Again, magnifiers. OCR is basically, again, optical character reading. Braille keyboard together with a standard keyboard. So if somebody types or somebody sends you an information, you are able to read it in a Braille form as well if you're on that Braille note. And then smart homes, accessibility features in the computer, smart doorbell, assistance grab. Assistance grab is a grab feature that is there for you to hire or book your grab cars. And augmented can. Augmented cane is a new cane which you can connect to your smartphone. This is not available in Singapore, but it is still in trial and they are exploring the possibilities. And then the image here talks about OrCam. OrCam is for a mobility. In terms of others, some of the other things, as I was sharing with you about leisure and recreational activity, some of the activities that we can think about is texture toys. The texture toys is basically for clients in preschool group, young children with vision impairment. The texture toys is the one that allows them to engage and participate in play. Other than that is called a sound ball, goal ball, beat baseball, tandem cycling, running guide, and things like that. These are some of the activities where if the person is very sportive and they wanted to engage themselves in a competitive sports, these are some of the possible sports that they can engage in. If not, these are some of the leisure activities that they can engage in terms of AT as well. I think I come to my case discussion. Is it too fast? Any questions before we move on to the case discussion? Any questions? Any thoughts?
Bhavani, there's after case discussion, we're going to proceed to the Q&A. Maybe it's a very good timing to have a group now, so that they have enough time to understand the case and have time to discuss.
Thank you, Van.
All right, Jonathan. We'll be grouping you guys up into 5 groups, and each of the group there will be a facilitator from our team. Jonathan will be grouping you all. When it comes to the cases, each of the facilitator will have our own copy of the case. However, it will be a good idea if you can just screenshot all the cases, so that in case you've been placed to group 1, you have have some references of the cases. Bhavani, would you like to proceed on the different cases and what are they supposed to do on each of these?
Yeah. Thanks, Ivan. So this is our first client. So I just named it randomly. So it is Mr. Frank, who is an advocate, and he was diagnosed with macular degeneration. And these are some of the information about who he is. And he basically approached our low vision professionals basically on these 2 needs. He wanted to have lunch with his friends independently. Maybe you would be wondering why the word independently is here. So you can just go back to read why. They give some information over there. And then the next thing that he wanted to know, if there is any AT device for me to help me to locate my car to board, because it is a one-way traffic. So it is a heavy traffic space there. So they cannot wait for you to be picked up and things like that. So he wanted to identify where his car is, because his wife is the one who ferries him back and forth his workplace. So this is about Mr. Frank. And then it's about Jackie. Jackie is a small little kid, 2-year-old, who is attending the EIC program. And his diagnosis is already given. And mom is a main caregiver for his son. And he has bilateral hearing aid as well. One of the concerns that the mom has is that he doesn't interact with a mom during playtime or feeding time. So they came back again to a therapist to look for any ATs or any solution for you to achieve milestone development and to achieve play development. And then Jessica. Jessica is a working adult, so it is going back to work. So she just lost her vision because of one of the reasons that is there, and she wanted to go back to the work, and she wanted to know how AT would help her to settle down in the work area and then continue to earn her own income. And then Angelina. This is another lady who is living with her sister, and she's a retired teacher, and her pastime activities are cooking, knitting, and things like that. And because of her medical condition, deteriorating medical condition, she is losing her vision as well. And then she feels boredom that isolates herself from interaction and engaging with a meaningful activity, which is a leisure activity. So she is only looking for two things that AT can support her, is baking using a conventional or old model oven. She doesn't want to change. She wants to use a conventional way or an old model oven that she has at home. And then the other most favorite thing that she wanted to do is about knitting and crochet. Yes. And then the last client is Mala. This Mala is an young adolescent who is studying in Polytechnic, and because of a medical condition and things like that, although there's supportive teachers, supportive family, supportive environment and things like that, but because of COVID restrictions and things like that, all her learning has changed from face-to-face to a HPL learning, like what we are doing, virtual learning, everything is virtual. And then actually the problem that she has is that when we share screen, she is not able to see things clearly. It is not good enough for her to see. So so she approached her OT to find out whether if there is any AT that allows her to participate in online lessons. It can be form of anything, but major concern is when content is being shared. And then any other online quizzes that happens during the online learning and things like that. And then the next one is about her concern about the exams. How do I participate in exams? Whether it is an online exam or whether it's a pen and paper exam, what are the ATs that can help me to participate in the exams? So these are the 5 cases that we will be discussing about in each individual rooms. One room will be talking about one case. And then during your discussion, these are some of the questions or pointers that you can consider talking so that it allows you to do the process of identifying the right AT for your client. So basically, what should I go and do an assessment about? What are the assessments that I have to do for your clients? And why do I need to make a choice of doing this assessment over this assessment? Like, for example, if I choose to do an FEA over a current AT device, why do I go about with it? Things like that. So it is a rationale why you choose the assessment. And you can list down as many ATs as you can. AT technology, it doesn't only limit you to identify the devices, the materials, but you can talk about some strategies as well. Like, for example, font size change is a strategy, but that is considered as a technology. So assistive technology, it includes your devices and strategies as well. So you will list down as many AT recommendations for the questions for each case study that you have. And then you will also rationalize why you're recommending this AT. And then finally, you will do an outcome measure. How am I able to see whether the client will continue to use or not? What are the measures that I have to put in place so that he continues to use? So these are some of the 5 questions that you can allow your thought flow to go through. And then we will come back again into our main group, and each group will be presenting your case discussion, what you have come out with the discussions.
All right. Just for clarification, Giovanni, you'll be joining each one of the group, right? While we are facilitating it, and
Yes,
at the end of at the end of the 15 minutes allotted time, each of the group at least present of their input, and there's no wrong answer. So don't worry, the speaker will help you give you the correct answer as well. So it's just a brainstorming thing on how much everyone knows, or some of you might have a background as well about visual impairment, and it's a good opportunity to share also your ideas and knowledge here. So yeah, Jonathan, I think it's time for us to be grouped.
Okay, hi everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Are you able to take photo of your case?
Which case are we supposed to do?
Jessica.
Ah,
Yeah, Jessica. So I think we need somebody. You might want to choose one leader for you to do. I mean, you have to choose from your group, and then I think you need to read the case and then answer the questions that was written there, the following page. Are you able to get the files? I mean the data from Jessica? Oh, data of Jessica?
Sorry, no, I didn't take a photo just now.
Oh, okay, okay. I will try to help you. I will put one.
Thank you.
Okay. Hey, sorry. I hope I can share. Okay, number 3. Okay, this is the one. Never mind. I put. Wait for a while. I put the questions here. So for you to discuss. Okay, you can start now.
I think first is like pick the assessment, right?
Hi, sorry, I'm reading the case study description. Is there some parts missing to it?
No, I think it's just like that.
Oh, okay.
I think last part is about AT returning to work.
Oh, this one. Sorry.
Yeah, I think so. Thanks.
Thank you.
So sorry about that. Okay, you can proceed.
I think Barnabas mentioned something just now, right?
I think we should start with like assessing something. If she need return to work and the main like form of work is like using her laptop, I'm just thinking maybe we can assess like a functional, like as she's using her laptop, how much can she see in terms of like reading? Because her acuity is like hand movements. I'm not sure how that will translate to like up close like a screen. So maybe some sort of like functional vision assessment.
I'm actually quite curious to know if her visual acuity is hand movement, what that actually means, whether if she's able to actually count the fingers on the hand, or what kind of movement is she able to see.
Yeah, I also don't know what's that hand movement thing.
I think I can add on to what you mentioned about laptop usage for work. I also wonder how is she traveling community mobility to and from work. Yeah, hand movements sounds quite severe. Yeah, so I wonder how is she coping traveling to and from work.
We don't seem to have like a lot of information to work with lah, because I think in terms of visual acuity, like what you are saying, not sure like how much it translates to her being able to use a laptop. I'm not sure whether, I think just now Bhavati mentioned about the scoring, the actual score like 6 over 120. They would know that like actually the she can read the font size of 120, or is her visual acuity so bad that probably we are even looking at like whether she may need to learn braille and like getting a braille keyboard.
Yeah, adding on to that, I was thinking if usually for visual acuity, we would use a Snellen chart. But if her vision is too poor for that, then usually I would try to do a confrontational test. So before that, we will try to do identifying number of fingers, then confrontational test to see whether does the eye have the reflex to close when there's like a foreign object close to the eye itself, and also see whether there's fluidity in the visual tracking and visual fixation as well.
Then I guess if we go the vision path, then yeah, all those that Kirsty shared will be very relevant for us to proceed with choosing the AT, right? After we get the results from those assessments. But if we like go the braille route, then need to start assessing in terms of like sensation in the fingertips, that kind.
Actually, I also will be curious to find out about this unattended tumor. What is the medical management of it lah? Whether, is it conservative management or it's going to be operative? Because that would also change the potential and the prognosis of this patient, whether the vision could, I don't know, whether can be remediated, but also to also identify what other areas body areas might be affected from the tumor if it continues to spread, because that will also influence the type of AT to prescribe as well.
Is someone taking down? Is someone taking down notes?
I'm writing notes, but I'm still at the assessment part. I'm so sorry. Basically,
Okay.
I've currently grouped it into the clinical assessment where you all have mentioned like the functional vision assessment, the visual tracking, fixation, and confrontational tests, etc., as well as environmental assessment. So talking about community mobility from work to home and vice versa, and the office environment. So that's what I've taken down so far. You all can let me know if I missed out anything.
Thank you so much, Vivian.
No problem.
Do you guys have any questions or query about this case that you wanted to know a little bit more or anything? Since I'm here, I can add on if you need any more info about this case.
Where is this tumor?
So cute. Yeah, it is in the optic nerve.
And are they going to operate on it? Will the vision come back, or is it like conservatively managed?
Conservative management. So that's the reason why she wanted to look into the AT device. Yeah.
When you talk about her visual acuity is in hand movements, does it mean that she uses like, as in like moving her hands around to try to gauge the distances and stuff like that?
Hand movement is basically that they can only see shadows. You know, when I move, my light goes off and then light comes in. So it is basically that she's able to see shadows only. She can't read or she can't see details of the image that she's seeing.
Would you like to share a bit more about her job scope? Because we understand from the notes here is her core work is case management and networking. Yeah, so we are not sure, is it really extensive use of laptop or does she need to meet clients? Because social worker usually need face-to-face. But virtual, I mean, COVID, there's mixture, so not sure. Yeah.
Okay, so I think basically her part is basically working with the clients first and then creating reports and connecting, networking, you know, through connections to identify where this client can go to receive services. So in terms of sending out emails to the referring agencies and then checking with them whether it is appropriate or not, things like that. So although there is more of a client-oriented thing there, but then the documentation part is also another area that she has to do. Like what everybody does now. So basically, apart from client, we still do our documentation, right? So that is a part. Did I answer your question?
Thank you for the information. Okay,
Thank
and we
you.
know that her visual acuity can only see hand movements. Quite severe. Okay,
Yes.
okay. Wow.
Yes. Okay, you can continue your discussion. I'll move on to the next room.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe she need like some voiceover, more auditory style kind of input, and I mean both like for to type down things and also to read out things to her.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really know what it's called. It's just called voice over control, voice over function.
Yeah, there's one voiceover software under the school function, right? Like open
Yeah.
book, JAWS. And then there's the opposite one is the optical character reading, which is from the text they need to read out to her, kind.
I think we
Okay,
also,
and
oh, sorry.
no, you can go.
I think we also need to think about like her ADLs because she's living alone. Yeah, so I don't know if that would actually affect how she functions because now a lot of us are like working from home. So I don't know if like the home environment itself, do we need to make it like more conducive for her to work?
I would also like to check with her because if I'm not wrong, she's getting married soon. So I also want to explore a bit more about the role of the husband, the new husband, and if she's having any like the emerging role of being a wife is there more occupations that she wants to engage in or things that she wants to prioritize to learn as well.
I think on to that, I think also probably it would get good to ask her like given that she's getting married soon, will there be a change of home environment? Is it moving to a new home or moving in with the in-laws also? Then it will be an unfamiliar environment for her as well.
Then I guess at that point of time, we might need to explore some like applications that she can use to help her get to work. Like what Kahim mentioned about like the unfamiliar environment, like what are the obstacles and all that. Yeah.
I'm not sure whether whether we can make use of like those text to speech function in like handphone, because likely she will have to like talk to clients over the phone in addition to using the laptop as well.
Yeah, agree with what has been discussed so far. And I think the software also need to consider the compatibility with the system. Yeah, I'm not sure if the documentation system can be compatible with, let's say, JAWS or VoiceOver or this software.
I think can try embossing, like in terms of like matching of the clothes. You can try embossing certain things like at the back of the shirt or something like that, so she knows which clothes will match if she wants to wear outside, if she wants to go out of the house for work or anything.
Thank you. I hope that you had a good discussion, conversation about how to work with these clients that you had as a case discussion. I think we will go about in presenting what you have discussed, and what are some of the ADs that you would recommend for your clients. And you can also ask if there is any queries about your clients or the case discussion that you have, then we can clarify over here as well. Okay. Evan, do you want to go in any specific order of presenting?
Maybe we just go through by group and we start by ascending. Means group 1 first. All right. Anyone from group 1, please? Chuan host group. Jackie. All right.
No.
Oh no.
Francis.
Francis. All right. Francis group.
Okay, group 1, the one that we discussed. Francis, can you share some of your thoughts on the case study? I can't remember the names of the people in the group.
Our group 2 have representative.
Maybe I will just share.
All right.
Yes,
some of the things
please.
that we went through.
Rini, okay.
Yes. For the assessment, we feel that we should assess, how Mr. Frank needs around hawker center, sort of a functional visual assessment. And we chose this assessment because we feel that there's many factors that may affect his vision in this kind of like complex environment, including the one where he tries to locate his car. So for the first problem area, we chose, we was talking about taking a photo of the menu and zooming in, because he has some level of visual acuity. He has like 624 and he has 60-degree visual field. So maybe more of the deficits would be smaller fonts and things like that. For the locating his car to board, we were talking about either having preset location or having a more brightly colored car that would help him identify the car a bit more easily. We didn't really discuss about why we would recommend these ATs, but I think we feel that they are sort of easier or more efficient methods of strategies that would be useful for his daily life, something that is practical and realistic. And I guess that would also tie into why we would know that this person would use this assistive technology. Definitely, we would need to collaborate and review with Mr. Frank if it is realistic for him. But yeah, that's all we have. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Navani, do you have something to add into this?
I think the strategies that Group 1 has shared is what we also tried it out for our client, Mr. Frank. And even though we tried all these things, again, we had to go back to our assessment, which is what is the current AD that he already has and why he is not using it, right? That actually tells you, like in terms of your fifth question, will the patient implement what you have recommended? Because we have already recommended an AT, we are introducing a new one, then you have to go back the question. So I mean that whatever assessment that you have chosen is correct, but you can also consider looking at the current ATs as well before you recommend a new AT device. But good job, team, that you have identified all the strategies that we actually implemented for Frank. There's nothing else extra. One extra thing that what I did for Mr. Frank is basically in terms of making food. Usually the friends will go and buy for him and things like that, right? It is the reason because that he doesn't know what is on the plate. The rice, the veggie, the meat, he doesn't know where it is and he doesn't know how to make choices in terms of food. So I suggested basically to look into the color coding of the food. So in terms of your plating your food, for instance, he wants to go to that, the veggie and meat kind of variety that is available there. So I asked him to go and look for veggie first, which is green vegetables rather than other colors, followed by a meat. So that means he kind of knows where exactly the rice and the veggies and all other things are there. So in terms of organizing your plate, making a choice of food is another strategy that I shared with him.
All right. Okay, awesome. Good job. Okay, we proceed to Group 2, my group, Amanda.
Yeah, hello. Yeah. So our case study was on Jackie. So he's a 2-year-old toddler with Pallister-Killian syndrome. So it's chromosomal related condition. Yeah. Some of the assessments that we considered was functional observation of him at home during play with his parents or other routines that parents like him to engage him more. We are not very sure whether there is a learning media assessment more for the toddler age. Yeah, but it will be interesting to see how he reacts to the different sensory inputs, considering he also has a bilateral hearing aid. Yeah, and indicates some form of hearing loss. Yeah, then we also would look into like what his eye report is like as well to have a better idea of like say his visual acuity, visual field, yeah, and so on. Then why we chose this assessment, like just now I briefly mentioned, at home with the parents, that's where we can see him most naturally, like to find out what are some of his challenges when he's navigating his environment during play, yeah, and also how he's interacting with his parents as well. Yeah, and for the list of AT that we would like to recommend him, we have considered like corrective glasses and also toys with switch like the Big Mac, so he can press a switch and make like a yes no preference for a toy, or he can press a switch and activate like a pop-up toy or a cause and effect toy or a toy with sounds and lights. Yeah, so this AT tend to be a bit more on the low tech side, considering he's a bit younger, so we're not sure like how much he may be able to understand. Yeah. Then how do you know the patient will continue to use the recommended AT? I think similarly it also comes with a lot of trialing with the child and trialing with the parent, and observing what the child does, how the parent feels the AT is being used at home. Yeah.
All right. Good job, Amanda.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So I think you have looked into from an EI perspective, how do you work with your clients in EI population? So we usually go for Big Mac, all the switches and things like that. One more thing that we have to think about is basically out of all the assessment that you have mentioned, observation is a key, because there is no specific assessment tool for young kids. Although we call it as preschoolers, a preschooler age starts from 24 months, which is 2 years above. So if it is below 2 years, there is no specific assessment tool to find out what it is. So observation is the key assessment that we have to do. In addition to what we have tried it out for Jackie, is also, although we tried the Big Mac, all the switches and things like that, because he doesn't have a good vision, he doesn't know what's happening in the environment, he was not ready enough to touch even anything. So that is a part that we also have to think about for a developmentally appropriate strategies. Like, I have never seen right from my birth. I have not experienced anything on my vision. How do I even go and grab a Big Mac? How do I go and grab a switch? So initially, with all these challenges, what we also introduce another AT or a strategy is that use of mom's hand to guide his movements. Even to reach to a Big Mac, he will pull mom's hand and they will reach. And then together with the mom, they will explore. So the manipulators or the toys with a tactile and embossed toys to test it out and try it out. So these are some of the things that we tried it out at our client place. Yeah.
So meaning, Bhavani, you're just going to start with the tactile senses of tactile and sense of security. So meaning you're just going to start with the sense of their touch.
Yes.
Okay. And a sense so that they can develop self-confidence and security because they're still young, right? And the most common familiar person is the mother, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Awesome.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah,
is there any technology that that can give out smell? smell.
Smell.
Yeah,
Is there
because
any specific
over here,
reason?
no, because for this, you're looking at using touch, right? So
Mhm.
is there any evolution of any AT in the future that can probably develop smell or certain moving image that might help children with this level of disability? I'm just curious, like how advanced the future can be like for this group of clients, because I think for the children is really about play, enjoyment, and pleasure. So yeah, so I wanted to hear from you.
Yeah. So in terms of olfactory, right, there is no any AD device for your olfactory system. It is basically your sense of smell. There is nothing else. But there are some therapy that's going on for these clients in order for them to familiarize different sense of smell. So there is a specific therapeutic things that will happen. They teach them how to smell different aromas and all these things. So in terms of AT, there is nothing available at this point of time. For the clients who have congenital vision loss or congenitally in the total loss kind of a thing, the most common one is tactile, because that is the most easiest one and most safe one. Sometimes the clients also comes with comorbid disability, like what Jackie has, comes with a hearing impairment as well. Hence, auditory may not be the another choice. So it is only left, they are only left with tactile info. Did I answer your question?
Okay, thank you. I mean,
Thank
it's
you.
very interesting what you can do for a child. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ching. All right, we proceed to group 3. Jessica, who's the group 3? Jonathan, is it you?
Hi, I can share for group
Oh.
3.
All right, okay.
Okay, so we are sharing on Jessica. Basically, she's working at a social service agency. So I think initially our group discussed using some assessments such as the functional vision assessment. We wanted to find out how she's able to see and also her fluidity in visual tracking. And we wanted to use confrontational tests. But after that, Bhavani actually shared with us that her visual acuity is in hand movements, meaning that she can only see shadows. So I think we didn't get a chance to discuss, but I was wondering if maybe we could use like a sensory tool to find out if she can also use like other sensations to discern what is around her. But for clinical assessments, that's what we will do. For environmental assessments, we are considering community mobility for her to get from home to work and vice versa. How does she do that? How is her office environment like, both at her desk as well as the general environment, as well as her home environment, because she actually lives alone at this current moment. So we talked about using, because currently she can only use hand movements to as her visual acuity. So we were considering recommending her voice over functions to both the screen reader, so having the text on screen being read to her, as well as text-to-speech functions, basically like helping her to type text for her reports, for her documentations, etc. And we will also consider different accessibility features available on the desktop and handphones, but we are also thinking about how compatible they are to the computer systems that she has at work for documentations. So that's something that we will probably have to find out more through interviews with the organization, through interviews with like her managers, etc. Then we were talking about for at home, she could use different sensory items. So for example, embossing her clothing so that she can, choose what clothing she wants to wear to work as well, or having a certain organization system at home so that she can pick her clothes more easily. Yeah, and I think we did mention the option of learning Braille, but we didn't go too much into that. And also a cane to move around if she may need it as well. Yeah, and I think we also wanted to find out, because they said that she's getting married by the end of the year, so we want to find out more from her partner and how he can support her. Yeah, and we also want to find out, I guess, like the social support at her workplace and how the workplace is able to make accommodations to suit her needs better. Yeah, and also because since she's getting married by the end of the year, then will she be for example, moving to a different home environment in the future. So that will also affect her travel to and fro work, as well as the home environment that she will be living in. Yeah, my group, feel free to add on if I have missed out anything.
It seems like everything is covered.
Yeah, I think it was really fantastic that I can hear from you looking things in different angles, different perspectives, including the caregivers, like, for instance, the husband and things like that. It is good job. For her, what happened is that it is not because of her or her family, but it is of the working environment. They were not very conducive enough to accept the changes that she has to go through. So they were all how do I put it? They were not strong to accept voiceover functions for the devices that we have recommended. So it was not the challenging on Jessica, but it was on challenging on the employer part in terms of talking about how to accept them with all the differences and things like that. Yeah. Thank you.
Bhavani, can I just add something? Since she's living alone in her flat, is it possible to also recommend smart home devices? So sorry.
You can go ahead to recommend smart home, smart solution. Nowadays, everything has become smart.
Yeah,
there's no limiting factor.
Because there's an assistive technology for visually impaired also, that you can modify the home environment of these people. Yeah,
yes,
just
yes.
to let you know. Okay.
Okay, go ahead. Sure.
All right. Selling the smart home. Okay, well done. Thank you, group 3. Now we proceed to group 4.
All right, group 4 is my group. Anyone
All right,
want to try?
Gary.
We have quite a lot of interesting comments. Okay, never mind that. I'll just do in the interest of time. We talked about observing the task, like how she does the task. We looked at assessing her visual field because it's a glaucoma case. Then we have interesting inputs such as to explore talking ovens, tactile stickers to put on the different knobs and handles, and then talking timers to to let them know how much time is left, and also magnifiers for her knitting and like her puzzles, and also even talking induction cookers. So it seems like this speech thing is quite a common theme nowadays. Yeah, and there was a question like whether like how are we going to ensure that the safety of removing the big product from the oven, and how are we going to train that? So that's quite an interesting one. And yeah, so I think the OT needs to train in that aspect. Yeah, so I think this was what we discussed. So Bhavani, time for your input.
Thanks, Gary. You become the presenter. All right. All right. Bhavani?
Yes. Fantastic suggestions, fantastic solutions. These are actually what we have recommended for her as well. But another thing that in terms of, although we recommend all these things, but there are some challenges that the client might face. So one of the challenge that she faced is, although we recommended a magnifier for knitting, it did not work. She has to manipulate too many things. I have to manage the magnifier. I have to continue to knit. It didn't work out. So we went on to another strategy. Is basically we did a learning media assessment to find out what is a preference of learning, and then her preference was using touch. Although for knitting you cannot use auditory sense, so we moved on to touch, and then we taught her how to count how many knits she has made, whether she has done it correctly, whether there is loose and things like that. So from a magnifier, we have moved on to another strategy that worked for her, and she enjoyed doing that with the use of touch. Yeah, thank you. I think there's one more suggestion in the chat for Jessica. I think they are wondering whether guide dog would be a possible solution. Guide dog is an advancement of your use of white cane. So you should be proficient and confident and comfort using a white cane before a guide dog is being recommended. So the first part is white cane, then is your guide dog. But for 80, you can go ahead to recommend guide dog. No issues about it. Thank you.
Awesome.
Bhavani, I want to say thanks for sharing about the knitting case. Because I was quite shallow. Initially, I thought it's impossible, but you shared on that this is achievable for this lady. So it was inspiring indeed. So thanks for sharing this story that it can be done. Thank you.
Yeah, and this is the reason why we present different cases here in breakout rooms, so that it's not just a theory here, but more on practicality, so that you can visualize what is this visually impaired people is struggling and how we can help through assistive technology, whether it be in high tech or low tech. So we proceed to group 5. Awesome. Mala.
Yeah. I think Evelyn, yeah, this is my group. Okay, any volunteer from group 5?
You can represent us.
Oh, okay. Yeah, for her Mala case, right, what we are discussed, right, so we can come up with magnifier, also can the text to voice. So these are the recommendations we made for Mala case. Yeah. I mean, as a we go with the low cost solution because it's a temporary. I mean, the home based learning, so we don't want to go like a high tech solution. Yes, Bhavani.
Thank you, Prabha.
Yeah.
I think this is very interesting to hear from your group. I do not know. Okay, this is again my thoughts. There is nothing harm. Whether it is a temporary move for an HPL or whether it is a permanent move, the participation is important. If
Yes.
it is a virtual meetings, we know that from next year onwards, we will be going to our office for a face-to-face. Does it mean that I may not work this year? Although it is a temporary. So when we recommend an 80, whether it is a short term or a long term, it doesn't matter. The reason why we are recommending 80 is to enhance their participation, or even if you can't enhance, at least you allow them to participate in the activity that is meaningful for them. So that's why I'm like, oh, okay, all right, fine, that's okay. So what exactly happened for this client is basically her major area of concern is home-based learning. She was not able to see the screens. So we tried a lot of magnifications. We tried using desktop magnifier. We tried all these things, but all these things did not work. Lastly, we end up in the iPad Pro. So iPad Pro allowed the screen to be magnified when the content is shared. So that's a technology that we introduced. Again, all the voiceover and everything is what you said. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Bhavani. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bhavani, there's a message here. It says from Rini or Rini. Not sure if this is helpful for Angeline in particular, or if this was already used, but in knitting, crochet, there is also markers which can help someone identify the start of the set that could maybe assist her if she is making round patterns, so she can identify where the start and the end.
Yeah, if that is available, then well and good, because I don't do knitting, so I have no idea what that whole package comes in. So what I use is basically based on the observation that I recommended. So if let's say if this package comes with this kind of a tool, you can go ahead to recommend as well. For example, for needle threading the needle, the conventional method is looking through your eyes and doing it. But recently they have a needle threader together, comes as a package. Like that, if it comes as a package, go ahead to recommend, ask her to use them. So it is still fine.
All right. I think before we proceed to Q&A, I think everyone has a lot of questions. I think that's it, right? And that's bring us to the end of the sharing. But before we proceed to Q&A, we would like first to express our appreciation to Bhavani as our speaker, and of course to everyone for your interest and attentions on our topic for today. So before we proceed, can we take our group picture first, because we're worried that everyone will, leave the discussions. So Jonathan, can we take picture first? Then everyone can have a chance to ask questions to Bhavani.
Yeah, please kindly open your cameras.
Show your gorgeous smile. And when Jonathan say 1, 2, 3, you say money or yoga, or mocha, just to show it. All right, Jonathan.
Okay, wait. Waiting for the others. Okay. Ready? Smile.
Say money.
Okay, one more time. Okay, wait. We will go for the next page. Okay.
All right, group 2.
Sorry.
You have to count, Jonathan. I think they're still smiling,
Okay, ready? 1, 2, wait. 1, 2, and 3. One more time. 1, 2, and 3. Okay.
Awesome. Okay, let us now move on to Q&A. You are welcome to ask questions, as many as you can. We have 5 minutes left. You can ask questions.
Actually, there's a question.
There's
already a question here.
Okay.
There is a question in the chat which talks about how much can we stretch a patient or a client in learning strategy in coming up with the AT solutions before the OT step in to follow through. Okay, how do you stretch and how much you stretch is basically depends upon client's motivation. Whether it is an AT or whether it is your any other suggestion that you do, it is basically comes from the client themselves or patient themselves. If the patient is motivated to learn, you can stretch. When you see that the patient is disinterested or not motivated to go with you, then that means that is the point that you have to stop doing it. So that is basically the answer for it.
All right.
And then there is another question. I'm just reading through.
All right, yeah. Where can we do tandem cycling in Singapore?
Singapore don't have. Singapore is still developing, so it is still developing in this area as well. We do have running guide. We do have what is that, sound ball, all these things have, but tandem cycling, I don't think so we have at this point of time. Yeah, there's an answer there. We have tandem bikes at SAVH. Wow, Ivan, yes. Okay, so there's an answer there.
Okay, is there any long distance course that may take to get more in-depth knowledge or certificate or diploma for this specialty?
Yes, if you're looking for AT per se, I think there is an ATP certificate that is there, which covers the entire AT. But if you're looking for low vision, then there is a course in University of Alabama, which is a certification course as well as a degree course, something like that, where you can go and get your certification in low vision as well. What's
all right? That's great. Oh, SAVH says that they have tandem bikes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Do we need to be trained to be a running guide? There's a question.
Pauline, Ivan, any thought on it?
Actually, basically, running guide, right? So you just what I heard, yeah, you need to sign up. We have this group called Running Hour, where they are volunteers and they actually run with the visually impaired clients. So what they do is actually they tie maybe a towel between hands, giving a little bit of this distancing, and then the guide can start running, and then on the count, and then they go alongside lah. So that's how they they run alongside with visually impaired person. They can free to just run and things like that, but the pool is there, and then we just have to maybe go according to the speed. You know, if the visually impaired person say I can move a bit faster, then they can move along faster. So that's how they enjoy running together.
It's called running hour. It's called running hour.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, there's this group of volunteers. Yes.
Right. The terminology from country to country changes. So over here we call that as running hours. I couldn't find the word, so that I just used the running guide as a yeah.
Yeah, there's another questions about that guide dogs. Was wondering if guide dogs can also be trained to be assistance dogs in the client's home too.
I do not understand the word by assistance, but usually guide dog will able to navigate you into the place where you are. For instance, you can also train the dog to find out where your what do you call this? The food is there to guide you through or navigate through to your whatever place that you're looking for, objects that you're looking for. But basically, in your home, you are the king and queen in your home. You know where things are located. Basically, you design your home. So there is no need for an assistant. So that's the basic idea behind it.
All right, last questions. Do you have experience with elderly people with low visions who have difficulties in learning new strategies who are trying alone? And what are some strategies you have for them to perform their basic ADL at home and ensuring safety?
Right. Again, depending upon the comorbid medical condition, if they have dementia, if they have delirium, all these things, then the learning speed is affected again. In terms of living alone, we had seen clients who still want to live alone with their existing medical conditions, with their existing vision loss and things like that. What we basically look into is my priority assessment will be going on to what is the current AD that they have and how would I enhance using the same AD for their participation in the home activities. So because we understand that the learning may not be that fast for these clients, so I will ride on to what is existing. So that's the reason why we have to go back to an assessment tool and rationalize why I'm using this assessment tool over the others.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, I think there's no more question here. Jonathan, would you like to show the QR code before they leave the, yeah, so this is our feedback form. Okay, I can just screenshot it. And while you are doing this, we would like again express our thankful appreciation to our speaker, Ms. Bhavani. I hope we can invite you again. I guess there's another talk we'll be running right with Bindu about low vision. I saw it from SAOT as well. Thank you everyone for your participations. It's really a very good platform of discussions, opportunity of everyone's sharing their thoughts and ideas, and it really does help a lot. You give us more information and input as well, other than something that we know about the strategies and assistive technology. Yeah, everyone, thank you very much. Hope to see you again for our next sharing sessions and topics upcoming next year.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, the slides will be shared, right, Jonathan? To them will be emailed because someone
in our website in SAOT.
Yeah.
Thank you, Benji. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Good
Thank
evening.
you.
Yeah, SIG.
Bye.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bhavani also leave.
She left already.
All right. Yes. Okay. Awesome. We're done. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone. Well done.
Yeah.